He thought he was infertile. He walked away from the only woman who ever loved him, and 4 years later, he stood at her grave, only to hear a little girl whisper one word that shattered everything. "Daddy." What happened next will shake you to the core. This isn't just a story about a soldier or a grave. It's about a buried truth, a stolen child, and the fight of a lifetime to bring her home. The December wind swept through the Oregon Military Cemetery, dragging with it the bite of winter and memories too stubborn to fade. Raymond Cole stood before a gray headstone, white chrysanthemums shaking in his gloved hands. Not from the cold, but from everything he had buried inside. The stone read, Elena Reyes, 1982 to 2019. Love never leaves, it only steps away. Raymond placed the flowers gently, his mind replaying the years with Elena, a military nurse he had met in the chaos of Afghanistan. She was fire and gentleness combined, the only person who had ever pulled him from the shadows. But then came the shattering truth. A combat injury had left him infertile. Raymond, thinking he was sparing her a future of disappointment, chose to walk away. Elena vanished after that, and 4 years later, news reached him of her death in a car crash. No last phone call, no explanation. As he stood there, trying to make sense of what never made sense, a small, stifled sob floated from behind the headstone. He turned, and there, under the skeletal branches of an oak tree, sat a little girl, no more than 5. Her coat swallowed her tiny frame. Her cheeks were smeared with dirt and tears. She clutched a tattered stuffed fox, eyes red and glassy. No one else was around. No car. No adult. Raymond stepped closer, and then she looked up at him. "Daddy," she whispered. "Mom said you'd come find me." That one word brought Raymond to his knees. He didn't move at first, just knelt beside the girl, confused, heart pounding. "What did you just call me?" he asked. "Daddy," she repeated, quieter this time. "Mom said you'd come here, but he told me not to say anything." The man inside Raymond, the soldier, the skeptic, screamed for logic, but another part, deeper, older, simply listened. "Her name was Mia," she said. "Her mom's name had been Lena, but someone made her call her Linda." Raymond's breath hitched. Elena had signed letters as Lena. Before he could ask more, a man in a gray coat appeared. Polite smile, neatly tied tie. "Sorry," he said. "She wanders. I'm her foster father." Mia shrank, silent. The man reached for her hand, ready to walk her away. Raymond's gut clenched. Years of battlefield instincts screamed that something was wrong. "She said her mother was Lena," Raymond said quietly. The man froze, then laughed it off. "She meant Linda." But as he walked away, Mia turned, her eyes heavy with confusion. That night, the cemetery's old groundskeeper approached. "That girl," he said. "She comes every week, cries by this grave, touches the photo like she knows exactly who's buried here." Raymond stared at the stone, mind swirling. Why would a child with no known ties visit Elena's grave like that? Why did she call him Daddy? Haunted by that moment, Raymond didn't leave right away. The girl's voice echoed in his head. "Mom said you'd come find me." He kept replaying it, unable to let it go. Then, the groundskeeper handed him a photo he'd found weeks earlier near Elena's grave. It showed Elena in a hospital gown, cradling a newborn wrapped in white. Next to her stood a silver-haired Dr. Keller, their old friend from the military. Raymond turned the photo over. St. Clair Hospital, Eugene. March 4, 2018. The date Elena gave birth. A revelation detonated inside him. She'd had a child, and never told him. The next day, Raymond drove to Eugene and tracked down Keller at St. Clair. When Keller saw him, he froze, like he'd seen a ghost. Raymond demanded the truth. Keller confirmed everything. Elena had given birth to a girl named Mia Elena Reyes. No father listed. She had specifically asked not to contact Raymond. She said you chose to walk out of her life. She didn't want to drag you back. Raymond sat still. It wasn't betrayal. It was sorrow wrapped in silence. But then Keller added something else. Elena had once said, "I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid he'll find the baby." No names, just fear. And then Keller handed him an old envelope Elena left behind. The sender? New Roots Shelter. Raymond's blood ran cold. The man from the cemetery, the one who called himself Mia's foster father, was listed as the executive director. Raymond didn't go home. He drove straight to New Roots. The facility looked clean, polished. Cameras placed perfectly. A sign read, "A new beginning for single mothers and abandoned children." Disguised, Raymond entered under a fake identity, Ray Connors from the Veterans Welfare Fund. Inside, he was greeted by the same man, Harlan Drake. The same gray suit. The same sterile smile. Drake gave a tour, professional and smooth. But when Raymond glimpsed Mia through a window, drawing a house with no windows, his chest clenched. She looked empty, silent. Drake claimed there were no known relatives. That Elena had signed power of attorney 3 weeks before her death. But Raymond recognized the signature. It wasn't hers. He'd read hundreds of her letters. Her handwriting was gentle, slanted. The document was stiff, forced, forged. Later, in his car, Raymond zoomed in and confirmed it. This wasn't Elena's hand. He wasn't just suspicious now. He was certain. Drake was hiding something. And it wasn't just Mia. That night, Raymond returned to the cemetery. He sat before Elena's grave, unfolded the photo again, and whispered, "I'm getting her out, no matter what it takes." From that moment forward, he was no longer just grieving. He was a soldier with a mission. Determined, Raymond went to a trusted private lab the next day. He had something precious. A pink knit cap Mia had dropped at the cemetery. Strands of her hair were tangled inside. He submitted it for a paternity test using his own DNA. The results would take 24 hours. That night he couldn't sleep. All he saw were Mia's eyes, and Elena's silence. Was he her father? Had fate played a cruel trick? Or was this redemption? The answer came the next morning. A simple envelope. A single line in bold. Paternal relationship confirmed. 99.997%. Raymond staggered out of the clinic, sat in his car, and wept. Not from fear, but from a truth too big to carry all at once. He drove straight to the cemetery again, stood before Elena's grave, and whispered, "You kept her safe. You did it. No more questions. No more hesitations." He had a daughter, and she was living under the care of a man who forged documents and silenced the past. It was time to bring Mia home. That afternoon, he met with Attorney Brandt. Together, they built a legal case, DNA proof, evidence of forgery, records from New Roots. But it wasn't enough. The original forged document had to be photographed. Raymond would need to go back, not as a guest, but as a ghost in the night. That night, Raymond infiltrated New Roots using the same skills that once helped him survive war zones. A utility tool, camera, a red flashlight, no weapons, just precision. He slipped past security, cracked the lock on the records archive, and found Mia's file. Inside, the original forged power of attorney, Elena's fake psychiatric evaluation, and worse, dozens of other children's files marked for international transfer. Orphans being trafficked under the guise of humanitarian aid. some to El Salvador, others to Morocco. It wasn't a shelter. It was a business monetizing forgotten lives. Raymond photographed every document, then paused outside Mia's room. She slept soundly, clutching her stuffed fox. He couldn't take her now, it had to be legal or he'd lose her forever. He slipped out and sent the photos to his lawyer, a journalist, and an old friend in federal investigations. The message was simple. If I disappear, bring this truth to light. The next morning, news broke. A broadcast exposed forged documents, illegal child transfers, and Elena's signature dated weeks after her death. The fallout was immediate, but so was retaliation. Harlan Drake filed charges against Raymond: trespassing, intimidation, extortion. The media became a battlefield. Some painted him a desperate veteran with a savior complex. Others saw the truth. But Raymond didn't flinch. He had one goal, one little girl, one promise to keep. The courtroom was packed. On one side sat Harlan, smug and polished. On the other, Raymond, unshaken. The judge listened as Brandt laid out the case. Confirmed DNA, evidence of forgery, first-hand testimony from a former resident of New Roots. A handwriting expert verified the signature wasn't Elena's. Then came Ariana, a young woman who had lived at the shelter. She testified that Elena was forced into silence, threatened, isolated. She ran to protect Mia. The judge called a recess, needing time to verify the evidence. Outside, reporters swarmed. Raymond spoke only once. "I'm not fighting for my reputation. I'm just trying to bring my daughter home." 3 days later, the verdict came. Raymond was granted full custody of Mia. Harlan Drake was arrested on multiple charges, and New Roots was shut down pending federal investigation. That afternoon, Raymond arrived at the facility. No cameras, no ceremony, just a father walking toward his daughter. Mia sat under a maple tree, drawing circles in the dirt. When she looked up, she didn't hesitate this time. "Daddy!" She ran, arms wide, heart open. Raymond caught her in a hug that lasted a lifetime. "I thought you weren't coming," she whispered. He held her tighter. "I'm here now, and I'm never leaving again." Raymond didn't take Mia to a mansion or a new city. He took her home, to a weathered house at the edge of the woods, once filled with silence and shadows. Now, it echoed with laughter, footsteps, and bedtime stories. He learned to braid her hair badly at first, made her eggs with ketchup smiles, and told her stories about her mother. Not in sadness, but in celebration. About how Elena used to drag him through muddy fields to chase wildflowers. About how she faced fear alone, just to keep Mia safe. One night, Mia asked why her mom never told him. Raymond answered honestly, "Because she was scared. She thought I'd never come back." Mia blinked. "But you did." Raymond nodded, pulling her close. "And I always will." Months later, Isla Rios, the journalist, released a documentary exposing the entire Operation Orchid Class, the Forgotten Children. It sparked federal hearings. More victims came forward. New Roots was dismantled. And Raymond? He found peace not in revenge, but in pancakes, ponytails, and preschool walks. He wasn't perfect. He once ran from truth. But when he was given a second chance, he chose to fight. Not for himself, but for a child who had once whispered, "Daddy, I'm scared." And for the millions like her, still waiting for someone to believe them. He didn't ask for a second chance. He earned it one step, one risk, one truth at a time. From the silence of a cemetery to the noise of a courtroom, Raymond fought not for glory, but for a little girl who whispered "Daddy" and meant it. If this story moved you even a little, drop a comment. We read every single one. And if you believe that no child should ever be hidden, forgotten, or silenced, share this story. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is come home.